And I think some other suggestions on how to look at the UN Declaration in terms of making these rights real for Indigenous women is calling upon states, Indigenous peoples, and UN agencies and bodies to ensure that they allocate equal funding to the education of girls and boys, take special measures to promote Indigenous women as teachers and conveyors of traditional knowledge, to make sure they're thinking about that when they develop new systems, and fully integrate Indigenous women as participants in developing and implementing Indigenous governance structures. And we talked about the Minority Forum report on the right to education, and there's one, paragraph 12 talks about special measures again to ensure equality and non-discrimination. And I think it's important that we as Indigenous people go to these other fora that are happening within the Human Rights Council and the UN system, and ensure that our voices are heard there too. And in the Minority Forum report, they also say the case of special measures or affirmative action should not be confused with minority or Indigenous rights to existence and identity that subsist as long as individuals and communities concerned desire the continued application of these rights. So what that means is, Indigenous peoples are not looking for affirmative action, they're looking for recognition of their rights to control education, their rights to their own systems that are different than minority rights where they're looking for equal opportunity. This is looking for our distinct recognition as peoples. The Minority Forum report also calls for an intercultural approach and anti-racist capacity within educational institutions at every level and informing all policies. I think that what that means for us is where there are Indigenous students in mainstream education systems, they have a right to have Indigenous methodologies and languages integrated into those systems and make sure that they're not discriminated against in those institutions. And again, Indigenous women's role should be promoted within that. And then the advisory committee to the Human Rights Council is also in the process of drafting a declaration on human rights education and training. Again, I'm just bringing this forward because I think it's another opportunity for us to engage with this advisory committee to try to have the Indigenous women's perspective or Indigenous people's perspective integrated. Oops. So, and Article 12 within this draft declaration emphasizes the importance of an integrated approach based on the equality of sexes, non-discrimination, and the promotion and protection of all human rights, including those of women and girls, with particular stress on human rights education and training within the family. Then Article 13 emphasizes the importance of paying particular attention to vulnerable groups, including Indigenous peoples. So the implications of, I think, that draft declaration test to date is that Indigenous women need to be integrally involved in human rights education and training. And again, it should be done using methodologies that are both gender specific and culturally appropriate. So making sure that both levels are addressed, I guess, and integrating that into the discourse when the declaration is further